All right, so get this. Imagine a country that's completely stuck in political limbo because their parliament can't even agree on who should run the meetings.
Wow.
It sounds crazy, right? But that's the reality in Bulgaria right now. And we're going to take a deep dive into this parliamentary stalemate, trying to answer the question, can Bulgaria overcome its political paralysis?
Yeah, it's a fascinating situation.
For sure. And our main source for this deep dive is a live feed from BTV Novinite.
Oh, okay, one of the leading Bulgarian news outlets.
Exactly. It's like we're watching a political thriller unfold in real time.
And it's a thriller with incredibly high stakes because, the position they're trying to fill, the Speaker of the Parliament,
Right.
it isn't just some ceremonial role.
Right.
This person is actually the key to forming a government.
I see.
No speaker means no government, no prime minister,
Wow.
and just a whole lot of uncertainty for the country.
That's a big deal. So before we get too deep into the weeds, let me give everyone a super quick crash course in Bulgarian politics just so we're all on the same page.
That's good.
Okay, so you've got some major players like the center-right GRB SDS party, think of them as the establishment.
Okay.
And then there's the Bulgarian Socialist Party, or BSP, representing the left-leaning side of things.
Hi.
Then you've got these newer coalitions like We Continue the Change Democratic Bulgaria, also known as PPDB, who are trying to shake things up.
Uh-huh.
And then there's the wild card, a party called Vazrajdain, which translates to revival.
Interesting.
They've got a nationalist slant and are definitely adding fuel to this political fire.
It's important to understand that this deadlock isn't just about personalities clashing. It reflects some really serious divisions in Bulgarian society.
Oh, absolutely.
Each of these parties represents different interests, ideologies, even hopes for the future.
I see.
And right now, they're locked in this power struggle that has very real consequences for Bulgaria's future.
Okay, so let's get to the heart of the drama, the speaker election. We're talking about the 51st National Assembly, and so far they've had four failed attempts to elect a speaker. Each vote has ended in a stalemate, with no candidate securing enough support to win.
And what's fascinating is that this failure to elect a speaker has implications that reach far beyond just the halls of parliament.
In what way?
Well, for example, without a functioning government, Bulgaria is essentially in limbo when it comes to making important decisions.
Okay.
Think about things like passing laws, responding to economic challenges, even navigating international relations.
It all just grinds to a halt.
Exactly. Everything is on hold.
It's like hitting the pause button on the entire country.
Yeah, and to add to the suspense, if they can't elect a speaker, soon new elections might be triggered,
Oh, wow.
which would just add another layer of uncertainty and chaos.
So tell me, who are these hopefuls vying for the speaker's chair?
Well, we had four candidates in the running: Ryan Azarian from GRBSDS, Peter Petrov representing Razrazdan, Natalia Kozlova from the BSP, and Sylvie Kirilov from Ima Takavnerud.
And none of them managed to secure enough votes.
Not in the initial rounds, no.
And then there was a runoff vote, right?
It's exactly. The runoff was between Nazarian and Kirilov. And this is where things get really interesting. Not only did neither candidate get the required votes, but there were accusations of broken promises and backroom deals flying around.
Oh, my goodness.
Tosko Yordanov from ep.3 straight up called out PPDB, accusing them of being shady and not supporting Kirilov, as they had allegedly promised.
So this is more than just a numbers game. We're talking about fractured alliances and a serious lack of trust between these parties.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And now they're clinging to this idea of a calculator scenario. It's this almost outlandish possibility where Kirilov could theoretically become speaker if he gets support from very specific parties in the next round.
But that would require
Some serious political maneuvering.
Wow.
And parties switching allegiances in a very precise way.
Okay, but realistically, how likely is this calculator scenario to actually work? It sounds like it's hanging by a thread.
It's a long shot, to be
Yeah.
honest. It would require a level of coordination and trust that seems almost impossible given the current climate. And the potential consequences of such political maneuvering could be huge.
Wait, what kind of consequences are we talking about here?
Well, imagine the fallout if a party makes a deal to get their candidate elected speaker, but then later regrets it.
Oh.
It could damage their reputation, alienate their voter base, even lead to further fragmentation within the party itself. And that's not even considering the impact on actual policy decisions once a government is formed.
So this seemingly procedural vote for speaker is actually a tangled web of political calculations, potential betrayals, and long-term consequences. It's fascinating how something that seems so dry on the surface can actually be so dramatic.
Right. And it's a drama that's playing out on a national stage with the whole country watching and waiting to see what happens next.
And speaking of the country, we haven't even touched on the public's reaction to all this.
Yeah.
What are the people of Bulgaria thinking as their parliament remains paralyzed? Are they glued to the news, anxiously awaiting every vote? Or are they tuning out, completely disillusioned by the political circus?
That's a great question. And to answer it, we need to delve a little deeper into the societal context of this political stalemate. You see, Bulgaria, like many nations, is grappling with all these anxieties
Right.
around identity, economic inequality, and the role of tradition in a world that's rapidly changing.
I see.
This parliamentary stalemate is like holding a magnifying glass up to those anxieties.
So it's not just about who sits in the speaker's chair. It's about what kind of future Bulgarians want for their country.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the problem is there isn't one clear vision.
Yeah.
Take Vazrajdain, for example. Their rise in popularity really points to this resurgence of nationalist sentiment.
Okay.
They're tapping into a segment of the population that feels left behind, perhaps by globalization or these rapid societal changes.
Okay.
Their message is about a strong, independent Bulgaria, often hearkening back to historical narratives and cultural pride.
So they're appealing to a more traditional mindset.
Right.
But that must mean there's a counter movement, right? People who want something different for Bulgaria.
Absolutely. You have parties like PPDB who represent a more progressive, outward-looking vision.
Mm-hmm.
They're all about European integration,
Yeah.
social liberalism, and appealing to those who prioritize things like economic opportunity and individual rights.
So you've got this tension between tradition and modernity playing out, and the parliament is stuck in the middle. It's almost like a microcosm of what's happening globally, right?
It really is. This
Mhm.
struggle between national identity and global interconnectedness is a theme we see popping up in democracies all over the world.
This reminds me of something Kirill Petkov, one of the leaders of PPDB, said.
Oh, yeah.
He essentially called for a temporary leadership, maybe even just symbolic, to kind of break this deadlock. I think he was suggesting that the oldest member of parliament should take the lead. What did you make of that?
That was a fascinating proposition.
Yeah.
Almost a plea for unity and a return to tradition. But I can't help but wonder, is appealing to tradition really the best way to unite a parliament that's so deeply divided? It seems like that could just further alienate the groups who are pushing for a more modern, progressive approach.
Right. It feels like a Band-Aid solution, doesn't it? Like, sure, it might get them through this immediate crisis, but does it really address the underlying tensions?
Exactly. And it's worth noting that Petkov himself linked the speaker vote to another controversial issue, the appointment of Borislav Serafov as chief prosecutor.
Okay.
He said, and I'm paraphrasing here, if we don't choose a speaker, we'll be stuck with Serafov.
Hold on. I need to jump in here for a second. For our listener who might not be following Bulgarian politics super closely,
Sure.
can you give us the quick rundown on why this Serafov appointment is such a big deal?
Okay, so Borislav Serafov is a controversial figure. There have been allegations of corruption and concerns about his independence, so his appointment as chief prosecutor, a position that holds significant power in the legal system, has been met with a lot of resistance, particularly from those who see him as a symbol of the old guard, the very system they're trying to reform.
Okay, so we've got this political stalemate that's impacting everything from basic governance to controversial appointments. It's like a domino effect.
And speaking of dominoes, we can't forget about Vazrajdain, the wild card in all of this. Their leader, Kostadin Kostadinov, made a pretty strategic statement.
No.
He basically said, we'll see if PPDB choose Vazrajdain or Pievsky. Now, Pievsky,
Wait, another name drop? I know we did our quick Bulgarian politics 101 earlier, but for those who need a refresher, who exactly is Pievsky and why is his name being thrown into this already chaotic mix?
yes, Delian Pievsky. He's a media mogul and a politician who's often associated with, shall we say, behind-the-scenes influence and alleged corruption. He's a very divisive figure in Bulgarian politics, often seen as representing the very system that many are fighting to change.
So Kostadinov is essentially forcing PPDB's hand, saying, choose us, the nationalists, or risk being seen as aligned with Pievsky, the embodiment of the old corrupt system. Talk about a tough spot to be in.
It's a brilliant tactic, really.
Okay.
Kostadinov is exploiting the existing political divisions and anxieties to gain leverage and push his own agenda.
Okay, so let's recap. We've got a parliament paralyzed by deep divisions, a ticking clock toward potential new elections, a controversial appointment hanging in the balance, and a nationalist party playing hardball. This is like a high-stakes political poker game.
And the stakes get even higher when you consider the potential impact on everyday Bulgarians.
Oh,
We've been focusing so much on, like, the political maneuvering and stuff.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, this stalemate has like a really real impact on people's lives.
Yeah, absolutely. This gridlock creates a sense of uncertainty, instability.
Exactly.
Can businesses plan for the future when the government's in limbo?
Yeah.
Will essential services be affected?
Right.
These are questions that ordinary Bulgarians are grappling with every day.
But I imagine it just fuels the sense of frustration with the political system as a whole.
It certainly can. We often get so caught up in like the horse race of politics, who's up, who's down,
Right.
that we forget that real people are affected by these decisions.
Yeah.
Their livelihoods, their hopes for the future are all tied to how these political dramas play out.
Absolutely.
It's a reminder that democracy, while messy and unpredictable, is ultimately about serving the people.
Right.
And when the system seems broken, when it can't even fulfill its most basic functions,
Yeah.
it erodes people's trust and faith in the entire process.
Which brings us back to our original question.
Okay.
Can Bulgaria overcome this political paralysis?
It's hard to say for sure.
Yeah.
There's a fifth attempt to elect a speaker scheduled for Friday.
Right.
But will it be any different from the previous four?
It feels like they're stuck in a loop,
Yeah.
just replaying the same drama over and over again. What would it even take to break this cycle?
That is the million-dollar question.
Mm-hmm.
Will one of the parties be willing to compromise?
To put the national interest above their own partisan goals.
Or will they continue to dig in their heels, clinging to their ideologies, even as the country drifts further into uncertainty?
And what about the people of Bulgaria?
Yeah. Do they have any power to influence the situation? Can they, push their elected officials towards a solution?
I mean, that's where the real power of democracy lies, right?
Yeah.
In the hands of the people. Public pressure, peaceful protests, even just making their voices heard, can really sway the political landscape.
So for our listeners, someone who might be watching this unfold from afar,
Yeah.
why should they care about this political drama in Bulgaria? What's the takeaway, the bigger lesson here?
I think it's a good reminder that democracy is fragile.
Yeah.
It requires compromise, a willingness to listen to different perspectives, and a commitment to finding common ground.
Yeah.
When those things are absent,
Yeah.
even a seemingly stable system can completely grind to a halt.
And second, it really highlights just how interconnected our world is.
Right.
What happens in Bulgaria doesn't stay in Bulgaria.
Exactly.
The challenges they're facing, political polarization, economic anxieties, the rise of nationalism, these are trends we're seeing globally.
Yeah.
So understanding what's happening in one corner of the world can give us insights into the broader forces shaping our collective future.
Well said.
This deep dive has been a wild ride.
Sure.
We've gone from the procedural intricacies of electing a speaker to the deep-seated anxieties within Bulgarian society, from the potential for political maneuvering to the fragility of democracy itself.
Yeah, it really is amazing how something that seems so localized can actually reveal so much about the world we live in.
It's a reminder that even the most seemingly mundane political events can have far-reaching consequences.
Absolutely.
And it's a story that's still unfolding. We'll be watching closely to see what happens on Friday and whether Bulgaria can find its way out of this political labyrinth. Until then, stay tuned and keep asking those deep questions about the world around you.